Alright everyone, let's talk about when the best time to summon your shards in Raid Shadow Legends is going to be. Now you could just summon your shards whenever you get them, there's plenty of people who do this. However, I would not recommend this if you want to get more for your shards than what you normally could. You definitely want to wait until certain things are going on and until there's certain time periods in the game when there's events or tournaments or other things going on that are going to really maximize the value of the shards that you have. So I would definitely not recommend this unless you're a super whale or if you are somebody who makes videos or live streams and you want to just throw in shard openings through your content. Then you can summon when there's nothing going on. But to pretty much everybody else, I would definitely try to make a habit of playing Raid Shadow Legends to have the discipline to actually save your shards. Now, as you can see, I have a lot of ancient shards. No, I did not just go and buy a billion of them. I've been saving these up for a very, very long time, and it takes a lot of discipline to hold on to your shards. Those of you guys who have been saving Void Shards for a little while, you guys know one of the payoffs is we have a double rates event for Void Shards going on right now. They'll do the same thing for Ancient Shards and Sacred Shards, and there's a whole bunch of other summoning events as well. So if you kind of learn how the events work, you can really get a whole lot of extra value for your shards than just randomly summoning them when there is nothing going on. So I wanted to talk about today what the different events are and what shards are going to be useful for the different events, because some shards are actually not useful for certain events. If you kind of figure this stuff out and pay a little bit of attention to what I tell you in this video, you'll be able to use this information and save your shards the best way that you possibly can to make sure that when the proper events do come out, you're going to be getting the most value and getting the best stuff and the best extra goodies along with your shards as you possibly can. So let's talk about the 4 different time periods that you can summon in Raid Shadow Legends. These will make sense in just a second here. So we've got the first one, which is pretty obvious. There's nothing going on. So this is just a time period in Raid Shadow Legends when there is no event, there is no tournament, there's no double rates, and this is definitely a period of time where I would not recommend summoning, especially for free-to-play. Or you don't spend a lot of money, or if you're just somebody who wants to min-max and make sure that you get the most resources for your shards. Because when there is nothing going on, all you're going to get is the regular rates of summoning, and that is it. So that's the first one. The second one is the longest running summoning events that the game has had, and that is the Summon Rush events. Now this is going to actually show up in your events page right over here. And we don't have one running right now, but these will come in waves. That is really, really important. I will say that, is that the Summon Rush events, you might notice that they don't come around very often. It could be 4 weeks, it could be 6 weeks. I think we've even gone 2 months without a Summon Rush event, but then they'll have one, and then they'll have one, you know, a week later, and then they'll have another one a week later. So don't necessarily expect the events to come around at an exact period of time. Sometimes Polarium will give us a little bit of an update. You know, maybe they'll give us a week's schedule or 10 days schedule like they are right now, but most of the time it is pretty random, so you do have to keep that in mind when you are saving up. But these will show up in the events. Now, when it comes to the Summon Rush event, it is pretty simple. There is a points total just like there is for this event right here, the Champion Training event. It's not going to be 30,000. It'll usually be something like 1,500, 2,500, 3,000, and then opening up shards is going to end up giving you points. Now, when it comes to the Summon Rush event, Mystery Shards are going to end up giving you 1 point, Ancient Shards are going to end up giving you 20 points, Void Shards are going to end up giving you 120 points, and Sacred Shards are going to end up giving you 500 points. So it usually ends up taking a few Sacred Shards, a handful of Void Shards, something like 10 of them, a whole bunch of Ancient Shards, or a bazillion Mystery Shards to end up completing these events. However, with the amount that they've been running these Summon Rushes, even if you're free to play, it's usually pretty reasonable with the extra Mystery Shards that you get just by playing the game. It's usually pretty easy to end up getting most of them max rewards, or at the very least, you can end up getting the more important rewards towards the start. So that's the Summon Rush event. Next up is going to be the Double Boosted Rates event. This is something that is a bit newer, and this is awesome. This is my favorite summoning event that we have and it is a really, really good one. This one pretty much doubles the value of all the shards that you summon. Now, it doesn't quite work that way because, of course, you still only get one hero or you only get one champion. So if you are newer to the game and there are still a whole bunch of rare champions that you are looking for, you're still only going to end up getting one rare when you do summon, but your chances of getting epics and legendaries are going to be doubled. Now, there are a few good rare champions, but generally speaking, I would say 90% of rares are no good. So 9 out of every 10 rares that you end up getting are just not going to be usable, or they're going to have very limited uses unless you're really, really new to the game. Epics are a bit better, but there's still a lot of really bad epics. There's probably going to be, I want to say 70% epics, or 2 out of every 3, maybe even 3 out of every 4 epics are not that great. And then maybe 1 out of every 3 or 1 out of every 4 are usable or good. And then legendaries, probably a bit better. I would say it's about 50-50. So 1 out of every 2 legendaries is good, 1 out of every 2 legendaries is bad. So even though you're not actually going to get double the amount of heroes, your chances of getting good heroes and more rare heroes is going to be much higher. So this is definitely something you want to be saving up for. And finally, we have the Champion Chase tournaments. This is something that is new. They've only run this a few times, but they have made it pretty clear, but this is going to be a recurring feature in the game. So there are definitely going to be plenty more Champion Chases in the future, and it functions very similar to the Summon Rush event, but well, there's a few differences. First of all, it's a tournament, so you can compete against people for top prizes. I wouldn't really focus too much on this because this whole thing works very strangely. Sometimes you'll be in very difficult groups, sometimes you'll be in very easy groups, so if you can end up getting the top prize without too much effort and it's something decent, like tomes or whatnot, go for it. But it's really this side that you want to be concerned about. Now, the Champion Chase tournament does function a little bit different from the Summon Rush. You do still need points, just like you do for the Summon Rush, but instead of actually getting points for opening up your shards, you're going to be rewarded points for actually acquiring the heroes instead. So as you can see, you get points for commons. Uncommons are both going to give you 1, then rares give you 10, and it jumps up a lot from rares to epics. Epics will give you 250 points, legendaries will give you 500, and you get a huge bonus for voids as well. As you can see, void rares give you 50 points instead of the regular rares, which only end up giving you 10. Now, the Champion Chase, you can also end up getting points from all sources in the game. And this is really, really important because this makes these Champion Chase tournaments a lot easier than people make them out to be. You get points not just from opening up shards and summoning, but you get points from any source. So anytime you end up getting a hero, when it falls under one of these categories, common, uncommon, rare, epic, or legendary, you're going to end up getting that many respective points. Which means, just as an example, when you end up getting to 2,000 points, you end up getting an epic champion from this Champion Chase tournament. So I need 2,000 points to end up getting this, but when I claim this champion, it's actually going to give me, and it's going to reward me, an epic champion. So because I acquired that epic champion, even though it was from the event, that is going to end up giving me the 250 points. So immediately right after getting 2,000 points, when I claim this champion, I'll be jumped up right to 2,250 points. So that's just an example. So any source in the game that you can end up getting champions is going to end up giving you points for that. So that includes fusions. If you end up going to the fusions, all of these epics, if you decide to do the limited time fusion, every time you end up fusing for one of these epics, that's going to give you 250 points as well. If you actually fuse Molly Tanker, that's going to give you 500 points. Anything at all, any of these will give you 50 points as well. So pretty much any source, if you buy stuff in the market, those will also end up giving you points. If you actually get champion drops from playing the campaign, those will give you points. So when it comes to the Champion Chase tournaments, my general strategy is try to get as many points without actually having to summon that you can during that time period. So if you can end up saving fusions for these Champion Chase tournaments, I would definitely recommend doing that in the future, especially something like Relic Keeper. If you haven't summoned it yet, hold on to it until there's a Champion Chase because it's going to give you some extra points. Or if you have any kind of rewards that have heroes, you know, your campaign, or just any source of heroes in the game that is going to give you points for the champion chase besides summoning, definitely save them for those champion chase tournaments, because you'll be able to save on actual shards that you can end up using for all the other different events. Now let's end up going back to this list right here. So we talked a little bit about champion chase, but now let's talk about what all the different shards are going to do and what events they are going to be useful for. So we've got, first of all, mystery shards. Now, mystery shards are actually a lot more powerful and a lot better than you might think they are. They're really, really useful for these summoning events, because even though they only give you food units, 1 and 2 star champions, it's going to give you a whole bunch of points for these events that you can end up claiming all those extra goodies. So mystery shards are going to be useful for the Summon Rush event. They are going to be useful for the Champion Chase event, but very importantly, they are useless in the double rates events. Absolutely useless. So because they are useless in the double rate events, you want to prioritize on getting as many points with mystery shards in the Summon Rush and in the Champion Chase tournaments, because they are not going to have any use when the double rate events come along. Now you'll see why that is important in just a second. So now we've got our Ancient Shards, our Void Shards, and our Sacred Shards. These are also going to be useful for the Summon Rush event. They are going to be useful for the Champion Chase event, and they are going to be very useful for that double rates event. Now, each of the different shards, Ancient Shards, Void Shards, and Sacred Shards, they each have their own respective double rates events. So if you actually go to the game right now and you take a look at the news section, we do have a Void Rush event going on right now, which is double the rates of epics and legendaries from Void Shards. We've had them before for Ancient Shards, and we've had them before for Sacred Shards. The only important thing to note is that it's not double rates for all shards. Each of the different shards, besides mystery shards, is going to have its own separate rush event that doubles the rates. Very important. So now going back to mystery shards, because mystery shards are not useful in any way for the double rates. There's no double rates for mystery shards because they only give you 1 and 2 stars. What you want to do is you actually want to prioritize on using your mystery shards to fulfill the summoning events that are the non-double rate events. So you want to try to avoid using your Ancient Shards, your Void Shards, and your Sacred Shards for the Summon Rush and the Champion Chase events, and try to fulfill those events through other methods. Now, for the Champion Chase tournaments, like I said, you can end up getting points through all sorts of different methods, including fusion, claiming heroes from rewards, actually playing the campaign, buying heroes in the market. Those all give you points, but you also want to use your mystery shards for the Summon Rush and for the Champion Chase tournament. Now, you're probably not going to end up being able to complete the Champion Chase and the Summon Rush events just by mystery shards and through rewards and other methods, especially if you're free to play. But you want to prioritize your mystery shards there first. When you run out of mystery shards, then I would recommend using Void Shards before you end up using your Ancient Shards, especially for the Summon Rush event, because Void Shards give you so many more points. In the Summon Rush event, they give you 120 points instead of 20 for the Ancient Shards. And in the Champion Chase tournament, they end up giving you 50 points for a rare, which you're guaranteed to get every single time at the very least, compared to regular Ancient Shards, which are only going to end up giving you 10 points. There's also a lot of really, really, really good Void rares. So even if you aren't getting the double rates, there's still a really good chance that you're going to get some super useful characters like Cold Heart or Bellower and stuff like that. So then going back, you want to prioritize using your mystery shards for the non-double events, the Summon Rush and the Champion Chase. And finally, you really want to save those Ancient, Void, and Sacred Shards and try to save them for those double rate events. If you run out of mystery shards and you can't complete the other events, you have to make the decision whether you want to not complete the event or dip into your reserves. But if you do have to dip into your reserves, I would say I would go with using your Void Shards, then using your Sacred Shards, and lastly, save your Ancient Shards. Number one thing to take away from this, if you absolutely possibly can, definitely try to save as many ancient shards as you possibly can for the double rate events. Try not to use them for the summon rush if you don't have to. They only give you 20 points anyway, which is not really that many considering how many points you need to complete those summon rushes. Try not to use your ancient shards for the champion chase either, because it's very, very rare to end up getting epics and legendaries. It's going to take something like 15 to 20 to get an epic and a whole lot, something like 200 to get a legendary. You're most likely just going to end up getting 10 points each for the champion chase tournaments. Really try to best to save those for the double rates events and try to use all your mystery shards to fulfill getting the points in everything else. So, hopefully I explained the priority order of using your shards in Raid Shadow Legends for the respective events as best as I possibly can, and you are going to get a lot more value if you follow this strategy, a lot more. So hopefully this video helped out and you guys are able to pull some extra goodies, saving your shards for the right moment. If you guys did enjoy this video and it did help out, consider subscribing to the channel for more videos like this in the future and leaving a like as well. If you have any questions or any feedback that you want to leave, please feel free to let me know in the comments section. And with that being said, thank you guys for watching. This is Salt of the Salty Guild, signing out.